Let's have a look at this very famous game between Fischer and Stenmeier from 1963, where Fischer was playing with white pieces and he opens with the king's pawn opening e4, and black responds with the Caro-Kann defense. White responds back with the d4, putting both pawns in the center, and very principled move. Whenever your opponent allows you to put your both pawns in the center, you should always try to capture these important squares. And now then black responds with the d5, where they can capture the pawn here. White can take the pawn here, because after exchange here, probably black can take it back with the pawn, which basically weakens the structure on the queen side pawns. Or black can take it back with the queen as well. That will take the queen into early game, and that could be risky as well. But white decides to take the knight here, putting defense here on this pawn. White could also play to d2. This way also they can guard this pawn, but this way we are putting pressure on these two squares, and we are also defending our pawn here. And now yes, black obviously takes the e4 pawn. Now white has no option rather than taking it back. So this is very obvious move from the white, taking back the pawn here, and that's why they have put the knight here to take it back if black ever try to capture the pawn. Now next move from the black was putting bishop on f5. This way he's attacking the knight here, but then Fischer takes his knight back on g3, putting attack back on the bishop. Now bishop is hanging here. He could simply put support to the bishop here, but black takes bishop back to g6. This way opens a different line here. Now pawn can be played on h4 and h5 and then put pressure here on the bishop, but Fischer decides to take the knight on f3. Probably idea with putting knight on important center square here on e5. So from here knight can put pressure on the bishop, knight can put pressure on the queen, on the pawn, and from here attacking on the queen. Also from here knight can put pressure on all these important squares. So this way very well basically capturing the entire center from a very strong position, and here with support from the pawn, and pawn is guarded with the queen. So that was very fantastic idea. So that's why Fischer first brings his knight out, and then when black decides to take the knight on f6, then Fischer plays h4, and probably the plan of putting pressure here on the bishop. But when black plays h6, Fischer drops the plan of pushing the pawn forward, because now if he would have pushed the pawn forward, then black could capture it with the bishop and putting pressure here on the knight. If whites try to capture it back with the knight, then black can also capture it with the knight, and after a lot of exchange here, both player will lose a lot of material. So white decides to take the bishop out on d3 and asking for an exchange here. This way black decides to exchange the bishops here, and now white takes back with the queen. Now black plays e6. White can now do a short castle here, but Fischer decides to take out the bishop here, and this way he's just putting pressure on these two diagonals and preventing all the attacks from queen, so that bishop is guarding very strong diagonal here. And now knight to d7 by black, where probably he's just now preparing to do a castle. Now Fischer decides to do a long castle on queen side, and then black tries to bring his queen and making this castle business here. So Fischer plays pawn to c4, castles, and then bishop on c3, putting defense here on this pawn, and probably he's just provoking queen to come here, and that's what black does. Queen on f4. Now white simply move king on b1 and putting the king on the safest square, and also guarding this pawn here. This diagonal is already captured by the queen here, so no attack or no possible threats from this diagonal, and the first rank is already captured with the two rooks, so no one can touch the king. So king is on very safe square, and now white probably is planning to attack on the king side, because the structure of the black is very weak on the king side. You can see all the minor as well as major pieces are on the king side, and that is kind of a bit weak for the black. But black plays knight to c5, putting pressure on the queen here, and now queen has to go back, and Fischer moves queen on c2. Now black moves knight on e4, probably with idea to put a fork here on the rook, but Fischer plays a nice move here and takes away the knight, and he moves knight on e5. This way knight is safe and guarded with this pawn here. Black plays this knight which captures the f2 pawn, but now when Fischer moved the rook here on f1, then this is in a way end of the game for black, because all the development of the black is on the king side, and king here on the long castle is very weak. No major or minor piece is defending this area. Everyone is just here locked. You can see if queen tries to take here the knight, white can simply take it back with the queen and offering a trade here, and there is no way for black to defend the weak side of the king here, or white could simply take it back with the rook, and this way basically there is no way, and black resigns the game.